Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Solutions with Aquarius Rising. What is it, Thursday today? Yes, it's Thursday. Gosh, time is flying. Welcome to
Mhm.
Solutions, as I said, and I'm very happy to have with me again the beautiful Adie Shub, who is my fellow countrywoman. And Adie recently, if you guys haven't yet seen her interviews with me in the past regarding her son, Jad, who recently, very sadly, crossed over back into full consciousness. Um, and Adie had been nursing him for, gosh, she was older than 30 already, right, Adie? He was
Mhm.
32, I think.
31,
Yeah,
31. Yep.
31. Yeah. How are you doing? How are you feeling after all of that?
It's a roller coaster ride. You never know when the grief's going to hit you. And when it does, I welcome it in, because I've always been such a warrior woman. And it's great to acknowledge those times of vulnerability and just allow, and eventually the rain showers move on and you find that stability once again. I think it's a process, and it's
I
going to
think
be
you
a long
said
process.
something. I think you said something so important, which really is the key to any healing, is that you welcome the grief in. I think
Mm-hmm.
that is such an important thing, and it's so hard, or it sounds so hard very often, when we're going through grief and stuff like that, to welcome the grief in. I mean, people will say, why would I want to do that? Well, you have to acknowledge that grief. You have to acknowledge your pain. You have to acknowledge your anxiety. Like anything that's not happy. If you are not feeling happy in your body, that part of you wants acknowledgement. So I think that's a very, very important point you've mentioned there, is that you
Mm-hmm.
welcome the grief. Because as you say, for us warrior women who stand out there and doing it on our own, for the majority of time, we're strong for sure. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but we are super sensitive. To do the work we do, we have to be very, very, very sensitive. And I think it's something a lot of people don't actually get about strong women, right? What do you say about that? That's actually something that's just come up for me now as I'm talking to you.
Yeah, you look at all the whistleblowers and the people that are so strong in being exposing the truth right now. And when you listen to them, your heart breaks and you feel the tremendous amount of grief that they've been going through.
Yeah,
And I think even as us who are warrior women who are exposing the truth and are hit with this barrage of so many of the truth, it's every now and again to allow it. And sometimes it might just be a trickle, and other times it might be like you're going through the biggest storm and you don't know how the hell you're going to get out of there, but you just have to ride that storm, and the sun will come up again. And if you're
absolutely.
authentic to yourself, then just allow yourself to grieve. Because we are all going through a grieving process of loss at the moment.
Absolutely.
Again, we all are
Hello,
feeling the
hello,
impact.
Vera Marie. Sorry, just someone in the chat saying hi. Nice to see you guys. Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank
It's
you,
really
thank
good to
you.
have you, and it's really good to have Eddie with us again today as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's true, and we just got to take it one step at a time, one moment at a time. The world is changing every day and every moment, so it's really good that we are absolutely walking our paths, doing our thing, and coming out on the other side. I think that's really what I'm finding difficult to find the words. It must be this Mercury retrograde. I'm like, what? But anyway, the topic I think today is it's so appropriate for what we're going through at the moment. I've been on the phone to two or three different people this morning from all sides of the world, and I'm going, oh my goodness, everybody is feeling it. So staying centered during crazy times, I think, is such valuable advice for what we're doing here right now. So, Adie, I want to just say over to you as well. I mean, you've recently, as we know, have been grieving Jad and coming to terms with his crossing. How have you stayed centered? What do you do in your life that enables you to stay centered?
Well, I think the most important thing is to really, as you mentioned, the retrograde, and it's all about reversing back into your own story and reassessing everything that you've believed, because when it all gets taken away, suddenly you start looking at the world in a very different view altogether. And, as I've gone through the day-to-day grind of really doing it solo and finding that inner strength, I utilize tools some of them that I created and others that I've learned from other teachers along my 40-odd-year journey of going into inner exploration. And to me, it's about embodying the experience, not going to the course and then just chanting or speaking about what you've learned. It's about really embodying it and trying it for yourself so that you can feel what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And this is where, besides going into the tools, as we are all going into the darkness, to let the light come in and expose the realities of what's really going on, we can then shine the light. But first, you've got to go deep within inside of yourself as well. To me, that's something that's very, very important.
Yeah, that's certainly something we advocate on this channel all the time. No one is out there that's going to do it for you. No one is out there to save you. We are all very, very capable spirits and souls, and we all have the ability, albeit not easy. We know this. Everyone knows that these times are not easy. But what would be when we know we have to go deep, we know we've got to go and do the inner research, if you will. We've got to go and do the interior work. We have to go and look within. We've got to sit with ourselves. We've got to shut down technology for a while. What I find as well is that me that's sounding like I'm in the bottom of the fishbowl?
Every now and again, not too bad. I can still hear you.
Yeah. It's my internet, so I'm sorry about that. But absolutely, it's such an important thing to sit with yourself. And guys, what I really want to say, wow, is even stuff like coffee. When we are addicted to coffee, whether it's 3 mugs a day, and that's it. I don't say you have to be drinking 3 liters of coffee a day to be addicted. You would, just like a drug, you get habitual addicts and stuff like that as well. But what I found, it's so incredible how those little creepy addictions, because that's an addiction, right, will sneak in and it covers up those emotions. So this is why I'm a great advocate of fasting. Even if it's a day, even if you fast for 1 day, but I highly recommend 3 days. A 3-day fast is very good to get beneath the surface of things, because you pretty much, and when I fast, I will take away anything that remotely resembles an addiction to me. Tea, sweets.
And
my naturopath said to me once many years ago, she said, your drug of choice is sugar.
Yeah.
So it really is about actually understanding and getting deep into those emotions, right? And understanding what these little things are hiding, because we really do need to take those layers and those veils away to see what it is that's knocking or enabling us to be knocked off center, right?
And I think a lot of people are going towards their addictions at the moment to escape, and that's something because we're living in a very traumatic world at the moment. And again, it's easier to, have a joint or to whatever it is, whether it's cocaine, whether it's whatever it is, or to go on a plant journey, and to go into getting the aha moment. But you've still got to come back to the essence of yourself to work with those deep levels of trauma. Addictions is trauma. Or, why are we eating so much sugar? Is that we're craving more sweetness in our own lives, and particularly for you who has to listen every single day to trauma. You've got to have big shoulders. You've got to have big shoulders.
You know what I understood about my sugar addiction, actually? It comes from definitely childhood. My mother never baked. She was a fantastic cook, but we never got, she never baked cakes or there was, I remember there was whatever, but after lunchtime, we were rewarded with 3 sweets. We could have 3 sweets, right? So for me, and I've really taken it back to that, absolutely, where sweets, we were rewarded. We were rewarded. If you're good, you can have a sweet. If you finish your lunch, have a sweet. If you've had your dinner, okay, then you can have pudding. that sort of thing. So to me, I definitely got that. And of course, it was emotional as well, most definitely. I think there was all sorts of things. I certainly can't put my finger on just one thing. But definitely, as time went on, I found I would soothe myself with sweets. And for a long time, it wasn't conscious until I started looking at what it is that I needed to be looking at. And then, as I said, my naturopath many years ago said to me, your drug of choice is sugar. And I went, oh my goodness. And isn't it crazy? I will cut out sugar from everything else in my healthy eating. Oh boy, but I'll go get me my chocolate. I'm not so bad anymore. Definitely not much. Now that I've realized that addiction is gone, I must say, I can absolutely go for days and days without, and then now and again I'll feel like something, and then I'll have it, but I'll have half, and it'll be in my cupboard for 3 days. So it's a very different experience now. But I think this is such an important time that we can actually look at these things in staying centered, right? Is what do we actually put around ourselves to protect ourselves? How do we protect ourselves? And that stops us from staying centered, right?
Precisely. But what I loved what you said is that you stopped and you paused and you went into an internal audit. And that's something that's so important. And I feel particularly at this time, I remember the old switchboards. Do you remember where they used to plug into a switchboard? And right now, what we are doing is really looking deeply at our beliefs, our attitudes, our programs that we have instilled within ourselves from very long ago, and literally taking the plug out to make a new connection. So to me, it's very much about quiet silence and going within, because this is, our internal intuition, our discernment, all lies within. It doesn't lie without. That's something that's exceptionally important. So, I find that it's also so many of us are in almost an interval. It's like also when we used to go and see movies in the olden days, you used to have cartoons. What a joke. Look at the joke. And then you had that pause. And I think so many people are in that interval between the old patriarchal world and the moving into new earth, the Aquarian age, where a lot of us are forced to look within. And, this is where I'm looking at even the outer paradigm of what is being exhibited in the world around what we see as all the stuff that's coming up, to reflect deeply within and look at also that inner reflection. Because that's what I'd really like to cover today, is to look at the dark and to try and move it inward, to see how can we make the changes? Is this group consciousness that we have to stand in masses to get attention, or do we do the internal work and come into consciousness and clarity, and that affects group consciousness? Just a question, it's quite an interesting way in which to look at it. That again, you're not blaming the outer world, but you're looking at your old programs and patterning to heal it at the organic level.
Totally. And it goes, what you're saying there, Adie, goes completely in line with Vera, who said, do you believe addiction can dull intuition? Absolutely, it does, in 100%. No matter what anyone says, I think if you go on a plant journey, like you have your ayahuasca or whatever, or your 4 grams of shrooms and you have your moment, that is brilliant, because I think those experiences give you an insight beyond the veils, right? But sadly, what happens is that a lot of people will then continue and go back and go back and go back, and they're searching for that original high, right? Or that original spark where they felt completely elated. And I worked a lot with drug addicts, and trust me, I've had my fair share of things as well. I know what I'm talking about. It's not like I'm coming from a place I don't know. So what I'm saying is, definitely, when your addiction, because what is an addiction? An addiction is something that you feel like you've got to keep doing in order to feel better, make you happy, or whatever the case might be. And it means you haven't found your inner light yet that has completely connected you to the divine source, right? To God. Because as long as you have an addiction, it means you haven't found your connection to God yet.
But even going into discussing plant journeys, firstly, you get the insight, but it's not a shortcut you've got to still do the work. And secondly, you've got to be very careful who you choose as somebody who is your shaman, because there's a lot of shamans that are not representing it.
Are charlatans.
Total charlatans. And, recently I've been faced with quite a disillusioned kind of understanding of, somebody who's just gone through a plant journey, and she was with a charlatan and actually was bringing in the dark rather than the light. So again, choose who you're working with.
Yeah. Good point there.
Very careful, because, it's really be discerning. If you're going to do plant medicine, work with those that are from the original roots of where they are, and beware of playlists, because again, that music and vibration and tone has a great frequency, is exceptionally powerful. So again, the ones that can really sing their songs and to really go into the true medicine. And it's again, we're all looking for instant fixes, and that goes back to addiction. So again, as this world becomes more and more exposed into what's sitting in the underbelly, I think that we try and reach out for help to the closest healer, to the medication, to whatever it is, to hopefully bring us that short-term fulfillment. But ultimately, there's no shortcuts. You have to find it within, and it goes back to yourself. And that's the most important thing. But how can you, when you're spinning in fear, because that's where they want to keep us, is in that fear, in that worry, in that what's happening, everything's falling down. They got you. Again, ultimately, it's about listening to it, being discerning, clearing your own self so that you can come back to your original blueprint and to come in from a more centered place. So you've got to get all the stuff out first before you can actually find that alignment with inside of yourself. It's really about really coming back to the silence within. We've got all knowledge inside of us. Everything's inside of us. And we tend to forget that. Somebody said the other day, teach me how to become a healer. And I said to her, I don't even need to teach you. You've already got that innate wisdom inside of you. It's about actually sometimes getting
right. It's something you know, and it's something that can be drawn out of you. It's something that can be evoked and nurtured and groomed and really worked with, but we all, you know, if we are sitting watching this platform, if you guys are out there, and I've got some really cool people here, Linda Hartman. It's a great topic and solution based. I love your channel, Chantelle, and your guests, and what you share is so inspiring. And it's so, and then it flows out to the universe. It's so true. Yeah, again, people acknowledging, you know, and really good. Makes a lot of sense. Vera was asking about the addiction. And yeah, enjoying your discussion, by the way. I've been giving up my cigarettes in January, not eating dairy, sugar, coffee, and processed foods for about 3 years now, and eating plant food and whole foods, and not have any pharma meds for years. Awesome.
Yay, well done. That's amazing.
That is so amazing, because when you start taking away those, and that's why I say right in the beginning, when you start peeling away the layers, even your coffee, even your tea, right? My sweets. Boy, did I throw tantrums when I couldn't have my sweets those first 3 days. I was impossible. I was like a child that couldn't get its toy. No, really.
And it's temporary. It's temporary, you know, and you start feeling things. When you start giving up your addictions, you start feeling the truth of your organic self. And sometimes it can be overpowering, because a lot of people don't have the tools of how to learn how to micromanage themselves. And that's something that's very, very important. I can hand a person at the end of the session a tool, which is medicine. And whether they take that up, I can't watch them and say, have you taken your medicine today? It's up to them to apply the medicine. If they keep coming in to fill up, but they're not doing the work, then they're wasting my time and they're wasting their time, because it's about empowering the individual to take their own hand and lead them through this process, so that they can come in with true authenticity. And again, not looking to the masters, the teachers, because I think a lot of them have been fallen down. As soon as you put somebody in a guru context, beware, you know, because again, as I said, all information, all knowledge is within inside of you.
The guru is within. Yeah, absolutely.
It's within, you know. I mean, the other day I heard about Buddhist monks in Thailand, and they got bust, and what happened is they were all on meth. And oh my goodness, you know, you've got the Dalai Lama who's asking a child to stick his tongue in his mouth. And
we know about the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama has been CIA, and we've known about it.
Our churches and every construct that we knew of before is dismantling. And people are grasping and going into, what do I believe? What is real, and what is actually sitting in an inverted matrix? You know, even the other day I was about to teach this wonderful, wonderful training, and I got challenged by 3 people. And firstly, now grounding exercises, which I thought, okay, that's cool, that's good. You know, grounding's fabulous. Go through the layers of the earth. Be careful, what's down there? It's you know, where are you leading your energy into? Rather bring up crystalline earth. You don't need to go through the layers. You can just call upon that crystalline earth. And also God. Why do we need all the caretakers? You know, yes, you know, if you look at Satan, he was a fallen angel. Again, is everything being inverted? Why do we walk around with protection? Do we not trust our God essence and the essence of creation, and to get in touch with Creator? And this is, again, it reviews everything. 5D, we're already in 5D. You know, basically, our cells are pure light. We've already got that consciousness within inside of ourselves. We are already perfect. Take away all the extra layers, as I mentioned, I think, in the pain body time that when I was speaking to you about the pain body, about that wonderful concept of Michelangelo, where he was asked, how did you do this beautiful statue of David? And he said the form was already there. All I had to do was strip away the excess. And this is what we've all got to realize, is that we are divine beings, and we have got the spark of light within us. And how do we activate that and get rid of the excess, so that we can come back to our true version of ourselves? I think that's imperative, you know. Absolutely. So, you know, I mean, when you started, you know, and I'd love to know when you started to almost go down the rabbit hole and to start learning about, the underbelly of what was really going on. I mean, how many years have you've been exposed to, really, that's the dark.
I think for me, to be perfectly honest, from when I was born, I mean, I have conscious memory of being in my mother's womb. I knew growing up things were not right. I grew up in apartheid South Africa, as so did you. I looked around me and I saw how people were being treated of different skin color. And as a child, you're completely powerless to change that. I remember, because living on the farm, my best friend was Cindy Ware, and she's a little Xhosa girl, right? And when time came for me to go to school, she wasn't allowed to go to school with me. And I cried and performed. And I wanted to paint her white. I asked my mother, can I paint her white so she can come to school with me? And then my mother explained how that happened. And then what I used to do was I would come home on weekends. Now, bearing in mind, I had 3 older sisters, and they would come home on weekends from boarding school, and I was so eager to learn and read. By the time I went into sub A, I could read grade 1 readers or sub 1 readers, standard 1 readers, So I love to learn and I love to educate myself. So I realized from a very young age, and I remember, although my parents were never hectic with our African staff, never, ever, ever. They were treated very respectfully, and if we were cheeky with any of our staff boy, we got hammered. But I used to listen to stories of people at school and how their fathers and mothers treated their staff. And for me, that was... none of that made sense. None of it made sense to me. So, like little things along the way, which made me always dig deeper into what I was seeing. So I was always seeing more than I think the average person. And I think just intuitively, because I was pretty psychic, I saw things, I understood things, but I had no idea how to conceptualize it and put it into a box that I could understand, right? So I remember also being and even as a teenager at school, all my friends used to come and tell me their problems, and I somehow knew how to assist them. And I knew my one friend was being molested by her brother. I knew it. I just knew it. And I asked my mother, how do I do that? So she said I should ask her. And I don't know, it was just stuff like that. And then I asked her, then she denied it. But then now, maybe 5 years ago, right? 5 years ago, she finally admitted it to me. So There was lots of little things that I understood were not right. It was just not right. Oh, what I want to say about Cindy, my little friend, my friend. And then I used to bring my homework back from school, and I taught her how to read and write. We used to sit on weekends, and I used to have a big wooden doll's house, and I used to teach her how to do the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s as I learned. So that for me was something that was very special. But over the years, being a healer, I came across a lot of violation, a lot of family incest, a lot of violence in the home, a lot of violation, father to child, that sort of stuff. When I was hearing stories about the royals doing hunting parties and shit, I believed everything. So I knew when people are talking to me and telling me these things, I knew it was true. And that's why the first time I smelt, when Jessie did her, when she started putting her testimony out, that was like, oh yeah, that chick, come, I need to speak to you. So I've always understood there's something so disgusting and so depraved going on. I didn't know what it was though. But what's amazing is that I've had the privilege of speaking to some people that have been in very higher positions in the underworld. So I'm hearing a lot of what's going, and as you say, what's happening in the center of the earth right now. It ain't that nice. It ain't that nice at all. But
No.
it really is, you know, Adie, and I mean, I know obviously you with your journey with Jad has not been easy, and I know you obviously would have also dug deep in many other ways, you know, in the whole medical industry because he had vaccine injury. And I want to just remind people that Jad, Adie's son, who recently passed away, when he was a little thing, a few months old, he got the jab, well, his normal vaccines, and he went completely, had a very, very bad reaction to the vaccines and pretty much put him into autism, right? So,
Well, yeah, he was never diagnosed as autistic, and that's what baffled a lot of the doctors, is that he was not Down syndrome or autistic, and they couldn't work it out. But yeah, it's going into seeing what the rest of the world kind of dismissed me. But in the end, it was such a relief in some ways when COVID came through that suddenly, you know, I could actually tell my story. And I think it's his memory and his imprint continues because he is still very much alive in his documentary, and it's changing people's lives every day, and it still continues and will continue. And to see that essence of suffering, like Jesse, like Gabby Chong, like, you know, Pure, somebody who I was listening to, Nelly, the other day, and hearing their stories, and how, you know, somebody who, again, has suffered so much, it can now be the spokesperson to really bring this to attention to the world. And even my journey, having gone through, you know, so many people turning away from taking responsibility, you know, so many people, and so many people who laughed at me, you know. So it's nice to be able to come in, having worked through that. And, you know, your original question was, how did you manage to get through this journey? And that's what I kind of reflected back on, you know, when I went back to the Facebook posts and I went into how did I do it? And that's where I realized how many tools that I took from my toolbox to be able to help, you know, myself. And in order that I'm here today, to be able to, as I say, have embodied as a journey that was not an easy journey, so that I can then, because I've embodied it, be able to teach because it worked. And that's something that's important.
That's the, you know, like that's what I say. You know, these are the true healers of the world, in my opinion. And I'm not saying anyone else isn't a healer, but I really mean only when you've been through it and you've come out of it on the other side and you understood how to alchemize that lead, or that, you know, the pain, the heartache. You know, energy can never be created or destroyed, only ever transferred or transformed. And we must never forget that. We can't chop something's head off and think it's going to die.
No,
it ain't going to happen. You know, you know, the energy lives on, you know, and so it really is about understanding, sitting with yourself in your deepest, darkest moments, taking away your addictions, feeling so raw in your pain and your frustration or your jealousy or your rage or whatever it is, and being okay with yourself for having those emotions. You see, what that to me is the first step, because we have to understand that it doesn't matter what you feel, doesn't matter what's going on inside of you. Most of us, as you say, will numb that with something. It doesn't have to be a substance. It can be your computer. It can be pornography. It can be anything, you know, just to take your mind away and quickly get yourself into another sort of lane there where it doesn't seem as traumatic, but it's not going to go away. So just to sit with yourself, no matter what you're feeling. And even if you say, I want to scream right now that the roof lifts, but I can't do it because my neighbors are probably going to call the police maybe, write that down, acknowledge you feel. Just acknowledge your emotions. Most of us don't want to do that.
Precisely, you know, and the thing is that, again, you know, once you've acknowledged it and you've allowed that energy, because it's got an energy, it's got a frequency, and you've got to get that out. But also to find, again, it's like a jellyfish which has got a long tail, and again, it again, look at our leaders. Our leaders have disappointed us. We've almost handed over. If I look at the leaders, they're almost like our parental figures or those that are meant to have taken care of us.
I
And
refuse to accept that. Sorry, not here.
wow. But that's how the old world kind of went into saying,
Yeah,
well, you meant to have our best interests the same as the pharmaceutical, and to realize that, no, that's not the case. But then again, have we been disappointed in our personal leaders, our mothers, our fathers, our teachers, our religious figures? So it's got a long
absolutely.
tail. And again, what people are experiencing now around fear or being able to go against the false narrative, to really be able to find that courage, it brings up a whole collective pain body of being the good little girl and do what you have to say or whatever the case is. So it's about changing it through the layers and to work at that deep level in the present moment. Most
Yeah.
importantly, you don't have to deal with all of them, but you can deal with an aspect of that. That's something to me that's very important, because that calms down the nervous system. Otherwise, you're just expressing that anger. But again, you're not going to who inside of you at that particular time is feeling this. And there's not in which you do it. That's simple. That's so simple. It's so basic. I think that
Bite-sized
everything,
bites.
yeah, it's clearing the table of everything that, again, even the old, as I mentioned before, the old conventional form of therapy. Let's go into that wound, let's go there, and how you're feeling. You don't need to do that. Again, what's the highest potential is love and compassion. So again, if you come in from the inner nurturer and the protector, you can heal those pain bodies as they come up moment by moment. It's not looking at
Absolutely.
the big mountain, just one step at a time. And that brings
Absolutely.
you into stillness. And it's
What would
simplistic.
you say? What would you say from where you sitting? Let's say someone, and there's a lot of trauma out there right now. We can acknowledge that for sure. So someone wants to, let's say, come onto the path of healing. And I mean, absolutely, I want to just say the first thing you have to do is spiritually, any kind of healing, you have to spiritually connect with God. There's no two ways about it. However, that is not always easy to feel. We always connected to God, actually. As long as you're alive and as long as you are connected to your divine creator, who is God. But most of us don't feel it. And because we have guilt and all sorts of things that have drowned out anything that is good, we tend to forget that. So what would be your advice to someone who is, let's say, just starting on the path of healing and looking at their own stuff within?
Well, I think that it's very much to get guidance of how to, again, get the medicine so that you can learn the language, and to what is the highest form of healing is love and compassion. And it's about coming in from here. I mean, even times where I worked with Jad and I went through so many different modalities and nothing worked, eventually I threw away all the modalities, and what I went into was the power of love and compassion, and just channeled that from my heart, the love that I felt for him. I channeled it through my hands without any interruptions, no text, no learnings, whatever. And you know what? He used to smile. He used to feel it. And to me, it was just, again, take away everything and just come back to love, because, we've all been disappointed in love, but we've got a dog, we've got a partner, we've got a best friend that we love. And to make that connection is not that difficult. Again, it's not that difficult to go to the heart. Light a candle in your heart so that you can actually really imagine that you're warming that center. There can be a lot of tears there. There can be a lot of sadness. That's why a lot of us skip the heart and go into the
The
monkey
head.
mind. That's the director. And we lose the connection of actually the heart space is one of the greatest centers. And we all trying to come back to love. It's the
Absolutely.
highest potential, is unconditional love. So to me, it's again getting yourself out the way and just coming back to the essence of your heart. And it's with everything. When you are engaging with somebody and they're telling you a heartfelt story, hold your hand over your heart, because you're listening from here and you are really coming in to hear the story, that again, it comes from your heart. And the person feels much more held rather than intellectualizing and going through all the stories in your head. Just to really, it makes a huge difference of just holding the heart and talking from the heart. It's not about the learned. You know, I used to follow notes before I used to go into teaching programs, and each time it happened, I used to write these copious amounts of notes, and then as soon as I looked at my computer, suddenly the notes used to disappear, and I used to go, talk from your heart, because it's through your experience and through coming from love that you actually get your information across. And it's very much about in-body, not embody, and it's about information, it's intuitions, everything's in, okay, it's not out. You know, so to me,
I love what you said when you spoke about throwing away every modality that you ever learned or knew or heard of when you were working on JAD, because that is truly, honestly, as a healer, that is the only thing you need. You work from the heart. How I work, when it doesn't matter who I'm working with, whether it's someone in front of me, whether it's someone a million miles away from me, whether I'm looking at a photograph of a little whatever, pray for God to literally ordain or bless, if you will, this connection. I always say, I'm your conduit. Use me in whichever way you need, God. Here I am. I align, I close my eyes, and suddenly the words come. I know what I need to do. I know what I need to say. I mean, really, there was not too long ago, there was a little baby, a friend of mine's little baby. He was a month old. Like, he's now 4 months old. So we're going 3 months ago. He was pretty close to dying, okay? He was in the hospital and no one could find out what was wrong. And I was contacted, and then I connected with his spirit, and I knew immediately what was the problem. And I just spoke to him in spirit, and I reminded him of where he is now, and I showed him who his mommy is and who his daddy is, and, you know, just a whole lot of little things that he needed to remember. You should see the picture, the photograph of the day that he was sick in hospital. And within 24 hours, I was sent another photograph. It's like it was a month difference. So the minute he suddenly grew and he was fat and chubby overnight. It's insane what happens when you connect from the heart and you know you are pure, you are authentic in God's love, you are sharing from that place. You know, people place too much emphasis on money. Now, this might be a little bit a tentative stuff. We all need money, okay? And I'm not for 1 second going to say I don't charge for my services, because I do. But I do not charge astronomical prices at all. I charge something that I feel is affordable, but I also need to look after myself, right? Secondly, I do believe that God takes care of us, you know, and I'm not talking from a pauper's perspective. We have to have good self-worth to understand we can do God's work and not have money stop us from doing it because this person can't pay, or I'm not getting my payment, or whatever the case might be, right? So when we take that away and we go into that complete mode of trusting that you are in this right place at the right time, God takes care of you in a million other ways. You will get your food. You will get your rent paid. You know what I'm saying? And you'll get more and more and more than what you ever need. Money is really a means to keep us suppressed. It's not, again, not the energy of money, right? I'm talking about money itself on a physical level is one thing, and the energy or the expectancy of money is a different thing. So you understand that money is available to everyone. Everyone, there's money available to us. We just have to put ourselves in that place. But that doesn't mean to receive it, that is, in alignment, right? We have to be able to trust and know and align ourselves that I have got absolutely zero to worry about. And then we
That's
go
it.
about what we're doing. And the more we do that, everything takes care of itself and each other in that amazing little pool of
Yes,
gold.
yes, precisely. You know, I mean, to me as well, I look at my fees from so many years ago, 12 years ago, and I'm actually at a lower fee than I was then. And even people who phone me who are going through they see that they're spiraling in depression. You know, they can call me. They know that they've got an open line that they can call me. And I'm not going to charge them. My partner always used to say, why do you spend 10 minutes on that person and not charge them? And I said, my darling, that 10 minutes stopped them from spiraling into a depression. And to me, it's not about money. I'll be gifted in other ways. And I
Absolutely.
know with certainty, absolutely, to go with radical trust and certainty, which is literally about allowing yourself to float rather than struggle, and to know that it's okay. Even at this quiet time that I'm looking at, why am I not absolutely, to the hilt, busy and packed with so many clients? I needed this period of time to slow down, to be with myself. Yes, I'm still open to work coming in, but instead of pushing myself into look at me, look at me, look at me, and that's what I can't stand about all this Facebook marketing and everything. It's about see who the authentic people are that you're working with, that are coming in from heart. It's not just about making a quick buck. It's about what you put out, and it doesn't have to cost money. It can be putting your arms around somebody at a hospital and saying, it looks like you need a hug, or may I carry a parcel, or gee, you're looking so beautiful today. It's just really about uplifting because, again, if we look at this dense world, we need to upgrade our frequency, we need to upgrade our energy. And the way we can do it is in walking life as well, to be aware of those around us. Very, very important, exceptionally important. And that's where you get gifted. You really do. It's beautiful
Absolutely.
to see. It really is miraculous. And to watch. It's not in your time. It's it's
Exactly.
it's working in
Cab,
another time frame altogether.
a cab just put a message in here, dance in the kitchen more.
That's
I
lovely.
agree.
Yes, absolutely.
Dance in
It's a,
the kitchen. Put your boogie on, put your music on and boogie. It's so cool.
absolute,
I
absolute.
to do anything that you enjoy, if it's dancing, if it's running, if it's going for a walk outside on the beach, to change that space and to just open yourself up to receiving a message from God in this time. And
That's it.
I'm constantly listening for messages from God, and they come in the most weird and wonderful ways. They might be on a billboard, it might be on the radio, it might be in a conversation I'm having with someone. There's many different ways. You've got to kind of be on high alert at all times, right? And not like high alert, but aware. Any moment now, I'm going to get something. It's happening. It's happening. You have that constant state of just like a lot of people have an expectancy for doom and gloom, right? You want to change that because law of correspondence or law of attraction, and we can't deny again that energy can never be created or destroyed, only ever transferred or transformed, right? So when you change the state of your energy from doom and gloom, which is lead, puts you on a lower vibration, lower frequency, which means you're going to attract, which is in line with that, right? Obvious, if we understand how that works. So the way to change that is not to kill everyone who's pissing you off, right? Although sometimes I'd like to, especially when you're looking at Cyril, our lovely Cyril. Anyway, I could definitely do something to him, but just as well, God has not put me in his path yet. So, and then at the same time, when you have that expectancy of something good is going to happen, I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. It's going to happen. Something amazing, something wonderful, something beautiful. You have that, and boy, oh boy, does that work every single time. It works like something wonderful.
It's about being in full observation as well. And I think that's it. Because again, if you are constantly connected to devices and you're not open, to seeing the blessings and the messages coming through, you can miss it. You can miss it like that. So it's, again, it's being very aware of your environment and your own self. And that's something that, to me, is very, very important, is pay attention. I mean, look at this electricity problem that we have in South Africa. And everybody's so focused on, damn it, the electricity's gone again and I can't get onto the internet or I can't get onto my phone. Those are times that, again, if you utilize it, unplug, get into nature, go into going internal, and actually see it as a gift rather than an obstacle, that you learn to ride it rather than get into that collective energy of it's so hard and what's the government doing and everything else, because that's also going to lower your frequency. Again, electricity is energy. And again, how much are you, like almost getting an empty piggy bank every day, how much are you investing and putting in wonderful value into yourself so that you are worth your weight in gold and you can feel that energy? So in a way, bless almost that essence of disconnection so that you can basically plug into that switchboard and make the right connection. To me, that's really important.
I think this whole electricity thing, and I mean, it's actually been more than a decade now, right, that we've been having this load shedding. But it's really been particularly bad since the last year or so. Since they ended lockdown, that's when we got the most extreme load shedding. 2 weeks later, we've never had load shedding like this before, since after lockdown. You might notice that. Interesting. However, I do find it very, for me, that's also my peaceful time. I switch things off then. I will maybe read or meditate during that time, or have a bath or something like that. So there really are ways that you use that to your advantage. Have candlelit dinners with your family, sit outside and have a picnic. You don't need, plan. There's lots of shops. We where you can buy things and grow things and do whatever and have a lovely meal outside with your family. Or on the patio or just in the lounge. I don't know what your situation is. There's definitely ways you can move around it. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. In that way.
But watch people. They get they actually lose their orientation. If they haven't got a TV on all the time, they feel as if they can't settle. They pace. They don't know what to do with themselves. They're uncomfortable with just being. And, that's something where you've got to look at. Again, if you're feeling that, try and be with that feeling. It's the same as what you were saying. If you're feeling the anger, be with it. If you're feeling that frustration, go out for a run. Try and find out, try and invest in yourself. Same as the money situation. Everything's falling apart on money. It's, again, where do I invest? The banking system's collapsing. Digital currencies, and where do I invest my money? It's, again, also where am I investing my energy? This is why I'm saying outer and inner. You've got to look at the two paradigms very, very carefully. Again, all the stuff that's being exposed right now, what's sitting in the darkness of where I am that needs to be brought up to the light and modified so that we can actually move into this new earth in a much more centered space. We can't drag our insecure inner child and also our collective ancestral energy with us into new earth. That, again, we're looking outside for the change, but we've got to be the change itself, which is so, so important. It's really, really important. I read somebody actually sent this to me earlier, and I thought, wow, how appropriate just to read this, and it's short on the show, which is, again, self-healers are powerful alchemists. They transform their pain into power, their wounds into wisdom, the mistreatment of others into boundaries, the tantrums of their inner wounded child into red flags, and their generational curses into blessing. And, it's such a lovely way in which to, again, understand that you are a remarkable healer, and you can come back to yourself and work on core issues. And it's simple. You've got to learn the language. And, again, everything is inside you. It's not the therapist telling you. It's your internal voice. But first, you've got to calm the fuck down. sorry, excuse the language, but you have to literally come into a centered version to be able to hear
I
yourself,
agree.
unplug from the
I love what you
matrix.
said about I love about what you said about see your, I don't know what the word you used, maybe your outbursts or something, or tantrums. Maybe I said it early on when I didn't have sweets. um, see them as red flags. I love that. I love that. I
Mm,
absolutely love that because it's like you can feel yourself when you're getting worked up, right? You
mhm,
know.
mhm.
And you also, and even if we've got a temper that goes from 1 to 1,000,000 in 3 nanoseconds, you can still, you know what things trigger you. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's a situation, maybe whatever it is, you know. So, whatever it is, you will know what triggers you. So, say, okay, I know that triggers me. When I see that person or when I get that feeling again, I'm going to take 3 breaths and go to the bathroom and wash my face. And then I'm going to come out and say, okay, how can I deal with this differently? I love that because we have to take that pause where we can be, you know, that knee-jerk reaction that really gets us into more trouble at the end of the day. And it really creates more shitty karma for us to work through because if you keep having these knee-jerk reactions and then behaving badly and then apologizing afterwards, that becomes a cycle, right? So you want to end those cycles. You want to be able to say to yourself, okay, this and this and this triggers me that I'm aware of. So
Mhm.
let me do this and this and this when I feel that familiar feeling surfacing. That's where we start, right? I don't know what you say about that, but that for me is a big one. You've got to get that pause between that
It
and
takes,
reacting.
well, again, it takes just a couple of seconds for anger to cross the blood-brain barrier. So by taking that deep breath and actually speaking to that anger, that really also does help to acknowledge, to go into, I know you're feeling angry right now, but now's not the right time to process this anger. And then to step back, listen to what's going on with that person. And if that person is shouting at you, duck, get squat, just squat. And they're actually like shouting into fresh air and it
Fresh air,
doesn't
yeah.
hit you, and then you can literally go in and start looking at why is that person triggering me? Because we all have teachers in life, and sometimes those teachers that we sometimes come across are not very nice, and yet at the same time, they are teachers to put us in touch with, again, parts of ourselves that have not been healed. And as I say, when you get to the jellyfish and you get to the original point of where that came in, why is that person coming to me? And you heal that and learning great communication skills. And this is where, again, I don't think people know how to communicate correctly. In fact, that's why I'm running an anger workshop, of transforming anger so that, again, you can uplift relationships and not degrade or diminish relationships, whether it's to put in a boundary that you walk out feeling I was in my truth, but to do it in a way that you can be heard, you can be acknowledged, you can be respected. In that way, this is where, again, I think the war outside is internalizing also our war, and even as people are
Absolutely.
being, fragmented with what's going on, they're going into their family groups, they're screaming at their kids, they're screaming at their wives, but actually they're not getting to the original cause of it. And if they get to that understanding of that fire can be powerful, but it's how you work with that fire and bring it into more boundary settings, but not aggressive. We're not working with aggression here. We're trying to work with transforming that that intense fire into the fire of the heart and really being able to see the other person because they've also got gifts. Even if they're teaching the most miserable lesson, it's acknowledge it. That's something that's exceptionally important. Makes sense.
Absolutely. And
Mm,
there's something I've always been saying for a long time about anger. Anger is a mask for fear and pain. So
precisely.
when we can realize that the angry face is really just trying to scare someone and trying to intimidate them and trying to get you control or power because something in you believes that that is scary and the other person's now going to do what you want them to do, right? or something to that effect. So when we actually take off the angry mask, take it off. Is it pain? Is it fear driving that? And that's when you sit down. That's when you can start working with it. But I'm very interested to your workshop. Is it online? Is it live? How are you doing it? Do you want to give us a link?
It's live. It's going to be a personalized workshop. I will be doing more online workshops, but I'm having a workshop on the 20th, 21st of May in Johannesburg in Waverley. And then I'll be running the Cape Town one in June, which is, when is it? It's about the second week of June, but I can always give you that information. But to me, it's all about really, we've got a lot of frightened children inside of us, that again, the world feels very scary. And by also working with the inner child first and trust, which is such a big word at the moment, is to find that seatedness of your own inner trust and your own platform to rest upon, and to bring in the safety and to start working with what is that fear and who is that related to. That brings in center. But then also, as I say, to take this volatile fire and learn communication tools of really being able to be heard, acknowledged, and respected. So, yes, it's vital work. It's incredibly vital work, and let's get back down to foundation. Let's get back to who you truly are. And that's it. You are an essence of pure light. And I think that's it, is to ignite that spark within you and to feel that essence of who you are, but coming in from a much more balanced perspective. Yeah. So
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I would love to know more about the workshops you're doing that you're running online in future. So we can post some links and stuff like that. And it's wonderful to see that you're still doing live workshops despite this age of technology.
It's about hugging and it's about the real thing. It's about the real thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so with you on that, Adie. I'm so with you on that.
It's about giving a person a hug and feeling it from the heart. And that's something that's exceptionally important, It's love.
Exactly.
Love is what it's all about. Yep.
Indeed. And I think we all feel that from you, Adie. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. To all the listeners, thank you for taking the time to really listen.
Got some. I want to just see some of the comments here before. I know our time's up now, but we're definitely going to have you back again. So don't worry, viewers. We're having her back. Okay, here we go. Prince, sometimes darkness can show you the light. I definitely think it always does. Yes. Definitely. We have been conditioned to not express our feelings and suppress it. Absolutely. Absolutely. All that, don't say how you feel, you're vulnerable, you make yourself rubbish. Vulnerability is true strength. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you see, vulnerable is being honest. It's being honest with yourself. It's being honest with those around you. And honesty is the highest form of love. So when you're being honest with yourself and those around you, and remember, it's not what you say, but how you say it, right? Be honest when you're like shooting their house down because you hate their windows. But I'm not talking like that, of course. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. And honesty is the highest form of love. So when you're actually being honest with yourself, it's a declaration of self-love. So when you are in love with yourself every day, you cannot be in love with the world and those around you. And you cannot be the light for God that shines and allows the others to strike their match or light their candle as well. It costs nothing for anyone else to light their match from you or light their candle from you. So it's beautiful. Adie, thank you so much for joining me today. We will
thank you.
Yes,
thank you, Chantelle, for hosting me on your show. And Monet in the background. Hello, Monet. Really appreciative of being back on Solutions. And I hope this has helped many just to look a little bit deeper into themselves and to actually take off brave face and allow actually the feminine divine to come in and nurture you. That again, we all need the love and the compassion. And that's what we need to put out to the world as well. Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you so much. And to you guys, thank you so much for watching us. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Really, really enjoyed all the. Lyra, you are here. Lyra Copeland. I'm having Lyra on tomorrow, by the way, guys. 5 o'clock tomorrow. Lyra is ex-Russian child soldier, or she was trained by the Russians. Not trained. Messed with. I don't even know the word right now. So it's so off what we're saying. But yeah, so basically I'm going to be having Lyra Copeland, Lyra actually Nikolaev, tomorrow at 5 o'clock. So look forward to seeing you guys then again on Aquarius Rising Africa. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless you all. I really, really, really appreciate each and every one of you who tunes in and who enjoys the shows and really participates. I love you, Lyra.
Thank you.
See you then. Take care of yourselves.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.